Vikings, let's win the game.
Vikings fans, the vibe in Minnesota today is pure adrenaline. You got a win over the Packers, but the young leader of the offense left the game with a sore hand. And one source says the team already has an option on the table with all this uncertainty around McCarthy. You've got a legendary defensive veteran dropping a surprising statement. And it sure looks like one more star is saying goodbye. Then to close it out, a moment that makes history. Stay with me because that last one hits you right in the chest. But before we unpack every detail of this rundown, quick favor from me to you. Subscribe to the channel and drop a comment telling me what you thought of this win and what the team needs to fix first. Let's get into it. Man, I was starting to enjoy how under control this game felt. Then you get that one moment where the guy looks to the sideline and your stomach just drops. It's not drama, it's instinct. When the quarterback asks out, the whole stadium gets the message. And this scare has a name, J.J. McCarthy. He pulled himself from the game in the third quarter against the Packers with a right hand injury. That immediately cranks the offseason alarm way up, because it is not just another bump. That same hand had already been an issue a few weeks back. He missed Week 17 after a minor fracture in his right hand. That happened back in Week 16. He got back to practice and was cleared to start Week 18. But in the game, after a short throw, he signaled to the sideline and came out. The team listed him as questionable to return. Rookie Max Brosmer came in. He took a sack early, and he still stayed in for the next drive. That felt like, yeah, his day might be done. And I know the fan base is split, because you can see there is real talent and real toughness in McCarthy. He has had good moments. He has had bounce-back stretches. He has had games where he lifted the team. But the entire season has been a wild up-and-down ride. Injury here, a careless mistake there, and the offense never stayed in rhythm for long. Before this game, he had 9 starts as the starter, and the numbers have not helped his case. More interceptions than touchdowns. The completion rate was low, too. So you look at this offense and think, how are we supposed to compete like this? Especially in a year where the defense carried so much weight. That defense deserved more support, plain and simple. Even with him leaving, the final was 16-3 for Minnesota. A win is a win. I'll celebrate it, no question. Defend the North is what it is, but you cannot fool yourself either. The Packers were patched together at the position, and they could not move the ball. This game did not answer the big question. It just made the noise louder. And the question is straightforward. Does Kevin O'Connell give him another shot in the dark, or does he bring in someone to push that quarterback room? I'm not saying you abandon the kid, but you also cannot put an entire season on a fragile bet. Football is ruthless. If you do not have a plan B, you become a hostage to bad luck. And here is my straight-from-the-stands read, the kind of thing we say with zero filter. If this team believes in McCarthy, then the offseason has to become an obsession with protection. It has to be simpler play calls. It has to be rhythm. And you need someone next to him to compete, even if it is just out of respect for the job. Tell me in the comments where you stand. Do you give him one more year with the keys, or do you want real competition in training camp? Do not go anywhere, because the next story already pulls in a big experienced name as a possible path. That's when the conversation really heats up. With our quarterback's hand suddenly becoming the headline, you could see smoke coming from another direction too. You look at it and think, okay, so what is this team going to do so it is not stuck with only one option? Because the offseason waits for no one. I swear, it is exhausting just thinking about it. This update shines a light on a pretty clear lane. The front office wants to scan the market and strengthen the quarterback room. That came from Diana Rossini at The Athletic. She said Minnesota plans to explore options through a trade or free agency. This is not about tossing the kid aside. It is about building a plan that does not rely on praying health holds up. And here is the part that makes your head spin. The team is tight against the salary cap. Really tight. People are talking about a big hole, something north of $30 million. So forget the video game fantasy. A massive trade for a young superstar? That gets tough fast. You end up hunting for a smart solution, not a dream. The most realistic path is a veteran, a short deal, a controlled cost. And in that list, one name pops up like the adult in the room, Russell Wilson. Yes, that Russell Wilson. 10 Pro Bowls, 1 Super Bowl, more experience than you can count. And here's the twist. He lived a similar situation recently. He started as the starter with the Giants, then he lost the job to rookie Jackson Dart, and still, according to Dart himself, Wilson was the first one to reach out. He texted him. He said he had his back. That matters in a locker room. Now, I can absolutely see the value of that for the purple and gold. This is not about making Russ the face of the franchise. It is about bringing in someone who teaches routine, someone who teaches ball security, someone who teaches reads, and most of all, someone who does not flinch when the stadium starts booing. A mentor who can also play if you need him to. That creates competition without blowing up the whole project. They also mentioned cheaper bridge options, like Mac Jones via trade or Malik Willis if he hits free agency. Those names do not crush your budget, and they can be a real plan B, but none of them carry the leadership weight Wilson brings, like it or not. And I can already hear the room debating it. We run it back with J.J. McCarthy as quarterback 1, but we put somebody next to him to apply pressure. That is not persecution. That is the NFL. If McCarthy stays healthy and takes the leap, great. You win. If he is up and down again, you do not sink the whole ship out of stubbornness. The point is, that decision affects everyone. It affects the playbook calls. It affects how practice feels. It affects the confidence of the group. It even affects how Justin Jefferson gets used, because an elite receiver wants the ball in the right spot, and he wants consistency. Hold on to that, because the next story has real emotion. A defensive leader talking like a goodbye is coming, and you can feel the fan base's heart react. Look, some wins look simple on the scoreboard, but inside it is a whirlwind. The game ended 16-3, sure. The defense dominated, the stadium was rocking, but there was a moment after the final whistle that hit different. The kind that makes you look around and think, yeah, that might be the last time. And the one who brought that feeling front and center was Harrison Smith. He spoke with an emotion you cannot fake. He said he felt a lot of appreciation. He said thank you to everyone who helped him from when he was a kid, and you could see it in his eyes. It was not a rehearsed speech. It felt like someone trying to keep his voice steady. He did not want to break down in front of everybody. And here is the part that scares the purple and gold fan base. He said he is leaning one way, but he also said he is not the type to say never, so he did not confirm retirement, but he did not deny it either. That goodbye energy hung in the air at US Bank Stadium. And I'm telling you, that feeling hits hard for anyone who lives and breathes Vikings football. What gets me is that Harrison Smith is not just a safety. He became a standard for how to carry yourself, a standard for preparation, a standard for playing the game the right way, even when the team was going through rough stretches. Fans can argue about anything, but respect for that guy is close to universal. You remember him since 2012, always there, always reading the play before the snap, always arriving with intelligence, not panic. And Kevin O'Connell had also talked about him days earlier on X's and O's. He said he has learned a lot from Smith. He said they talk every Friday morning, and it is rarely even about football. It is about life. It is about leadership. It is about how you treat people in the building. And I love that, because it shows Harrison's impact goes beyond the field. He leaves a mark. And the wild part is that in the middle of a season full of noise, we also saw flashes of the future. J.J. McCarthy found Justin Jefferson on some good throws. Jefferson finished with 8 catches and 101 yards. Jordan Mason ran hard too, nearly 100 yards. So you see the team playing well, and at the same time you feel like an era could be closing. And I've got to ask you straight, like we're talking in the stands. If Harrison Smith really does stop, how do you replace that leadership void? It is not just finding someone fast. It is finding someone who commands the locker room without yelling. That is rare. Tell me what you feel about it, because I've got that lump in my throat. I'm not going to lie, and stay locked in. The next story is another possible goodbye, but it is a different kind, more hometown, and it hits the whole state. Some things do not show up in the box score, but they hit you right in the heart as a fan. And in this game against the Packers, it was not only a secondary leader who looked like he was living a farewell. When the camera caught the emotion before the ball even went up, you could tell someone else was saying goodbye inside too. The name is C.J. Ham. His contract is set to expire when the new league year opens up. That comes in March. And the way the NFL works, that could have been his last time wearing Minnesota's jersey. He looked clearly emotional before the game. And later, there was that goodbye moment with his teammates. There was also a moment with the crowd inside US Bank Stadium. That is not normal. That is respect. And here is the beautiful irony. He scored the only touchdown of the day. Yes, the fullback, C.J. Ham, put Minnesota on the board. And he created a memory that is not going anywhere. That is so Vikings. Sometimes the story writes a script only the stands really understand. I laughed to myself, I swear, because it felt like fate sending a message. Now, if you only look at numbers, you will say, a fullback does not do much. But he stayed with this team for 10 years. 10. That does not happen by accident. He was a captain multiple times. He helped on special teams. He was a trusted piece when the run game was our identity. And most of all, he was a locker room guy, the type who keeps the group together when things get tight. There is another layer that hits hard in Minnesota. Ham is from Duluth. He grew up there, and he lived the dream of playing for his hometown team for a decade. That carries real weight. You do not see that every day. A guy who represents the community and still delivers his role without chasing the spotlight. This season had highs and lows. It had frustration. It had quarterback debates. It had injuries. It had games where you turned off the television angry. But then you see someone like Ham getting honored and you think, okay, at least this part is still real. There are still people who wear the jersey for what it means, not just for the paycheck. And here is the hard part. If the team really moves on without him, you lose more than a blocker. You lose a piece of identity. You lose a voice. And at a time when the roster feels like it is in transition, losing that voice hurts even more. I'm not saying you re-sign him out of nostalgia. Football is not a museum, but the decision has to consider the impact, because sometimes you cut an invisible guy and suddenly the locker room feels colder, and that costs you games. Hold on to that feeling, because the next story flips the tone. It is shine. It is history. It is the kind of streak that puts a star's name next to legends. And that, my friend, is a big deal. You know what gave me real relief in the middle of all this chaos? Seeing that our star did not let history slip away, because there was a number hovering over this game the entire time, and you could feel the play caller pushing it in a good way. The name is Justin Jefferson. He came into the regular season finale needing 53 yards to reach 1,000 for the 6th straight season to start his career, and the Vikings treated that like a priority. Early on, J.J. McCarthy hit him for 18 yards. 2 plays later, there was that motion pass. It went for 10 more. It looked like a disguised run. 4 minutes into the game, and he already had 39 yards. I thought, okay, they're getting this done early, and they did. Later in the first quarter, he added 12. In the second, he grabbed 17, and that was it. Milestone locked up before halftime. That puts Jefferson in a ridiculous club. Only 3 players in history have hit 1,000 receiving yards in each of their first 6 seasons. Now he is right there with Randy Moss and Mike Evans, and he already owns a record over Moss in that 6-year window. That is massive. But at the same time, it comes with that bittersweet feel. Because this Jefferson season has been weird. Normally he would have blown past 1,000 weeks ago. The offense stalled. The connection with McCarthy took time to show up. There were off-target throws. There were routes that looked out of sync. And yes, Jefferson himself had a few drops that do not look like him. It happens. But at this level, everything gets magnified. What I liked was his approach. He did not point fingers publicly. He stayed steady with the message. And he has already said building chemistry with McCarthy is going to be a priority in the offseason. To me, that is a leader. And man, I'll give you a nervous little laugh here. If that duo really clicks, life changes fast for the purple and gold. Now here's the straight from the stands truth I keep hearing in the hallways. Jefferson is the kind of player who can pull a team up, but he also needs consistency. If the quarterback is up and down, he becomes the target of constant double coverage. Then the offense dies. So that 1,000-yard mark is beautiful, but it is also a message. Fix the offense. Give me rhythm. And there is more. Kevin O'Connell clearly wanted to hand him that accomplishment. That tells you the locker room still buys in on him. That matters to Purple Faithful. In a season where goodbyes are hanging in the air, you need symbols who are staying. Hold on to that energy, because after an injury scare, possible farewells, and a milestone like that, the question changes. What kind of team are we going to be when the dust settles? My heart is kind of split with all of this, because it was a win. The defense sent a message. A historic milestone happened, but the alarm is still on, and there are farewells in the air. That mix is exactly what being a Vikings fan has felt like. One eye on the celebration, one eye on the worry. J.J. McCarthy's injury puts the most important position in sports right back at the center of the conversation. And this is not about picking on the kid. This is reality. If that right hand turns into a story again, the team cannot walk into 2026 pretending everything is solved. At the same time, the talk about bringing in someone proven, like Russell Wilson, shows the staff knows it needs a plan, even if it is to create real competition, even if it is to bring maturity into the locker room. Then you look at the other side of the ball and feel the punch. Harrison Smith speaking the way he did is not a small thing. If he closes that chapter, you lose an anchor. And when you add in the possible goodbye from C.J. Ham, it feels like 2 identity pieces could be walking out at the same time. That affects culture. It is not just scheme. And in the middle of the chaos, Justin Jefferson is still holding the standard with his own hands. 6 straight seasons with 1,000 yards to start a career. That is not normal. That is legend in the making. And it is also a warning. You can be great, but the offense has to stop spinning its tires. I'll put it on the table right now. The Vikings are at a crossroads that will define the next few years. Either you nail the foundation of the offense and keep leadership in the locker room, or you become a team living on flashes and memories. And I do not want memories. I want this team respected again, the way Defend the North always promised. Drop a comment because this space belongs to everyone who lives and breathes Vikings football. Tell me if you're riding with McCarthy with real competition in place, if you would bring in a veteran, and how you feel about these possible goodbyes. Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings, let's go.